don't see anyone.
Okay. So I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Cynthia and seconded by Todd to approve the minutes of the previous meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. We have a quick executive session.
She's not here yet.
She's
So
not
we'll
here?
hold that until.
We'll hold that and put it in where we can.
Yeah.
So, new business, fire department. I guess there's several things they want to talk about. Mike, it's your floor.
My floor. First of all, Nick, did you get any of these?
I'll make sure that we've processed all of them.
And the thing I sent from Nick was, I think I left that at home.
It was in their agenda packet. So,
One thing I wanted to touch on. I met with a guy named Mark Davis. He was suggested to me by Troy Dare for dry hydrants. Our dry hydrants in our system, town system, even in the town of Sandgate, are all in dire need of maintenance, repair, replacement, something. Last year, we went to draft at the Arlington ice rink, and we filled 2 trucks up with gravel. We ruined 2 nozzles that night, and most recently, back in the beginning of April, we had the pump testing done, and we put over a 5-gallon pail of gravel out of one of the trucks into their testing tank. So that gravel has been in the truck the whole time. So we can't use that hydrant anymore. At the Cheese House, we can't access the river anymore. That's our water supply for Sunrise Lane, Pine Knoll, that area of town. So one of the things I spoke with this Mark Davis, they do swing down dry hydrants. So like on the bridge by the fishing access, a pipe would be attached to the outside of the rail, the river side of the rail, and when we need it, it would swing down. The most expensive one he said he's ever put in was $6,000. So he's actually pricing 3 of them for us right now. One's at that fishing access by Tory Lane North, and 2 are in Sunderland, one on Hill Farm Road and one on up by the dump, the bridge there. The one down here at the ice rink, the bridge railing is wrong, you can't do it there. So I'm waiting for him on quotes. I have to get in contact with Troy. But our dry hydrants are in, Arlington only has a couple. But the main one that we would need for anything in the center of town is no good. We'd have to go to draft at that point, if we can get to the river with all the cars parked there. The town of Sandgate's dry hydrants, all of them, basically I'll consider all of them except for maybe the one at the intersection of Sandgate Road and West Sandgate Road. I'm gonna consider all of them useless because,
For the same reason?
yeah, we inspected one on Earthline Road. Not this past winter, but the winter before. And then this past year, the brook flooded. It covered the dry hydrant up. It washed section of the road out. We can't even get to the pipe anymore. Their block is higher than our pipe. Multiple dry hydrants in Sandgate are useless. And it's all lack of maintenance, or lack of non-maintenance. So that's why I'm trying to come up with a better idea to get away from them, but you can only do these in certain places where there's bridges. But again, I haven't heard back, haven't got prices from him yet. I gotta get in touch with Troy O'Dare, come up with another idea for down at the ice rink. But that's it, that's where we're at with hydrants, if you guys have any questions about those or anything.
So Mike, in Sandgate, the bulk of the hydrants up there are in ponds, which don't have the constant water flow. They do get silt into them, so they need to be
Right.
flushed before they're used.
Well, that one on top of Tate Hill, when we had heavy rain last spring,
That washed off the road, yeah.
that washed off the road and it actually washed out of that mountain all the way across the field into the pond. there's no way of knowing if there's gravel at that head or not.
Yeah.
So,
Without back flushing it, probably a couple trucks worth each time.
yeah, but for us to back
So
up.
then you've got, on Rupert Road, you've got 2 up on Rupert Road that are in ponds. You've got the top of Campbell Road out there, which is in a pond where we had the forest fire there
Right.
last year. Down on Chunks Brook, got that one in the pond, although I don't know what kind of dead critters are in that pond, so I don't know if I draft out of that or not. But the bulk of them in Sandgate were put in ponds.
Right.
Same up by the forest fire the other day, across the brook, on that big pond right behind the barn. That is a pond as well.
Yeah, Susie came up and told us, I knew that
Yep.
was there. but-
And then up by Porcelain Road, that pond there, which we've used multiple times up in the upper Sandgate area of their town, toward that area. So
Yeah.
those definitely need flushing. That's something that should go out and be done. But
Right. Well, it's the thing.
the river ones have always been a problem. We've known that for years.
Yeah, but like the ones that are in ponds that we know need flushing, I mean, we have a house fire, last thing we're gonna do is dump a couple trucks, clean them.
Right.
I'm just trying to get some kind of a maintenance. I mean, Sandgate should be responsible for their own dry hydrants, and I did go to the selectmen's meeting 2 years ago and talked about dry hydrants with them, and then they didn't wanna hear anything about it. They weren't worried about it, so. It never went.
I don't know.
It wouldn't be a bad idea as a kind of compromise solution for potentially authorizing us, or having us think about sending their select board a letter saying, we understand that dry hydrant maintenance is something that is in question. We need to at least have a conversation between our 2 boards directly about this. This is a problem of mutual concern that's really at the select board level between the 2 towns of how is the division of funding for these rural fire infrastructures to be provided. Should it be functionally cross-subsidized by the other 2 towns, or should we change our funding model, or should you guys have set fees associated with these things? There are a couple of methods, or like approaches to this, but certainly all of them involve a conversation between the 2 boards. So that could be a project for maybe sometime later in the summer that we could send them a letter and say, hey, we want to invite you to a conversation about this, or at least invite a member or a couple of members of your board to a conversation about this. But that may be a first step.
My personal feeling is I always felt that it benefited the fire department. Therefore, we did it. Ralph Billings used to be really good about him and Bob Young going up and flushing them and whatnot. We did always have problems with the ones in the river, with the fast moving water. There's just no way of keeping the debris out of them at that point. The ponds definitely were easier, and that reminds me, there's one on West Road as well.
I
Halfway up on the
spoke
road.
with Troy, and, you know, the amount of money they put into dry hydrant in Sandgate, and the amount, and then Sandgate's basically just letting them go. He's not necessarily overly pleased with that. The last one we tested up at, the other end of Tate Hill Road by Fred West's house. That was a mess. We had to test it like several times. First time it wasn't turned on, then it had wrong fitting on it and stuff like that. He basically said if he knew that hydrant was going in to serve one house on an unmaintained town road, they would have never paid for it.
That's a wet hydrant, correct? It's got a
Yes.
valve?
Yeah.
Could
Yeah.
I mean, maybe the other gentlemen don't need it, but I would appreciate having a list of the dry hydrants and the wet hydrants, where they are, you know, the ponds and the river ones, so that if we are gonna start replacing them, or if we're gonna start repairing them, or flushing them, or whatever's going on, I would have a better view of what the landscape is. I feel that it is so important to have the ones that are functional flushed, that I think we should do everything we can to flush the ones that can be used, the pond ones or whatever it is, so that they're available. You know, if we have to have a schedule for when it does, I'm fine meeting with Sandgate, but I would like to have an inventory of what they are, what their condition is, what needs to be done, and then get some kind of schedule about how we're gonna do that, because I think it puts the firemen at risk not to have access to sources of water.
So I can pull the data from the ISO portal that will give me the list of the hydrants and where they are.
12 in Sandy.
Yeah,
I
12
know,
in
but
Sandy.
you're not gonna have what the conditions are, so Mike has to
Well,
annotate it.
yeah, and so I'll give the dry hydrant list and the non-Arlington town list to Mike.
Okay.
Burr has filled out inspection forms for
Okay,
all
good.
the town hydrants
Okay,
in
good.
Arlington on the water system.
Including the dry hydrants.
No,
and-
so he only does the ones
water
connected to the water
Yeah,
system.
yeah, I know, so
So-
I'm not talking about those,
Yeah,
I'm
so
talking
we'll-
about the dry hydrants
Yeah.
and the things that are in bodies of water, because I think that the most dangerous times we have is when we have fires that are away, in the hills and
Outlying
everything, in the outlying areas, and to have a hydrant somewhere in the area that can't be used would be just really criminal. But I do think that the viability of the river hydrants, I've heard lots of problems with that, and so I don't know if that's something, let's concentrate on getting the ones that can be usable, and then come back to the river hydrants if we have to do those drop-down things, because the river's gonna keep moving around the way she does. And I mean, I don't think you can put any kind of filter or grill on it that's gonna keep the gravel from
At the
coming in.
old sand pit area in Sandy, just before Southeast Corners Road, I think we tried, 5 different
Filters.
installations
Yeah.
in there?
Yeah.
And
It's
none
not-
of them worked.
No, it's not
None of them
gonna work, so
worked.
let's, the river's telling us something,
Absolutely.
so.
Which is
um,
why, after that point, we went to standing water, ponds,
Yeah,
spring-fed
Yeah.
ponds, things like that. So, as Mike says, big storms can still cause a problem, but not so much in the ponds.
And like, Applejack building, I was in that, I wrote about that. Applejack building was supposed to have a road from their parking lot out to the river maintained for us to go out there to go to the draft. There's no road there anymore. So I don't know how we go about addressing that.
is that part of the permit?
Jamie, that would have been a 250 permit?
That was part of the 250.
Okay, so yeah, we can pull the 250 and we
Enforce
can,
that.
yeah, we can enforce that, that's easy enough.
Wasn't there access to the
Sunderland,
river?
remember?
off-
That is
off
Sunderland.
Town Line Road too?
What's that?
Wasn't there
Take
some
them
access
request
at one
it
point
does.
off Town Line Road?
We can
too?
request
Or was that just
Town,
That's part of the.
Town Line Road off East Arlington, there was some sort of access?
there
to
is
the-
supposed to be a river access off of that.
Yeah, that's the.
Out past
I mean,
Alex's house.
it would be
Yes.
interesting to also check on not just that river access, but if there are other river accesses where you're supposed to be able to get down to the river and you can't.
And the cheese house was our biggest one because that covered the whole north area up there.
And what's happened there, is it just the river moving again?
No.
No, the owner is
Business
replaced
owner.
rocks and dumpster. We can't access the river anymore the way he laid everything out.
Have
And I
you
think-
spoken with him?
I did when he first bought it and he didn't have. he
Shut the
was-
school buses and everything.
Oh, yeah, he didn't want the
Around
school
there.
buses
Right.
stopping there.
No, I feel
Okay.
like it has to do with their 250 permit and their wastewater field on that property, because that is a 250 property,
Which property?
the cheese house property.
Okay,
So when the property transferred, they reopened a 250 process in there, so it's likely that they went and made sure that the septic was exactly what it needed to be. That, like by my.
Which it was in the past.
Yeah,
But Rick Serrero always let us go to the river and he kept that area directly
It
in
was
front of the
open.
river.
It was open.
for
Yeah.
us.
yeah. But and forgive me, this is a foolish question, but the structure, the pipes, whatever is put in when you put in a dry hydrant, if it is removed, does it have any usability?
Depends on how it comes out. It's usually Schedule 80 PVC, 8-inch.
Okay,
They're
So
made
it's
for all
large.
particular sites, so it all depends on how they.
Yeah.
okay. I mean, I just wonder, because if we have some that are non-functional, that are not gonna be functional, is it possible to pull them and be usable for
Maybe
somebody
able to
else
do
or
some
us?
pieces,
Or just
but
leave them? I mean,
Like couplings and joints and angles.
maybe the thing is, if
You're not
there's,
gonna be able to reuse those.
right, but the thing is, there's no point in leaving pieces of plastic for the river to play with.
Right.
You know, so if these are not gonna be functional, I think we should pull them out. But that's a whole other, that's not priority at all.
Well, I have an idea for the one down here at the ice rink, go to the other side of the bridge and go right down the embankment. But I got to talk to Troy to see if something they even want to do. Because there's a lot of times we can't get in that parking lot anyway, so, especially during baseball season.
Because of parking.
Yeah. So are there any more questions on dry hydrants or anything?
Any other questions? I'm good for now.
All right, I touched on our in-town hydrants. I spoke with Burr a while ago. He said he's gonna work on this year about getting them painted up and color-coded to their gallons per minute, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
And most of them should be yellow, right? Or is,
I guess they're all supposed to be yellow, and then the caps and the bibs are supposed to be orange for one pressure, blue for another pressure, stuff like that.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
I've seen different colors, I had no idea that was.
Well, they're color coded for, so you know you're, some towns don't do it, like you go to Shasberry, I think Shasberry's just all red.
They're all red.
If they're black, they're very minimal usage. What else? So there's that. So I'm waiting to hear back from Mark Davis. He's been here, he's measured, he's supposed to do prices on those swing down hydrants.
and those are eligible for future grant rounds for dry hydrant grants. There's always money available for dry hydrants in future years. So it's something that I'm very, very keen to have prices on so we can, get potentially 50% back on these things or more.
Okay.
Again, I'm shooting from the hip because my phone won't let me download what they sent me.
Do you have trucks?
New truck.
Phones? and
New
maintenance?
truck, it's in Buffalo, it's finished, as far as Buffalo has it concerned. I'm waiting for a call when it's gonna be delivered to St. Albans for the lettering, the ladders, equipment, stuff like that. So he's gonna call me as soon as he has it or knows he's gonna have it, and give me a firm date to delivery date. He was thinking last time I spoke to him, the first week of May. The other two trucks, the old 7.5 is out of service, is sitting down the West Station. There's a water leak, a severe water leak from the tank to the pump. So the truck is unusable. It could go to draft and supply, but it's unusable for fighting fires. So it's been sitting down the West. VRS said you might be around $1,000, bring it down, we'll get to it when we get to it. Do we want to put the money into it, being as we're getting rid of it? And how do you want to go about getting rid of it?
Is it other than the current leak, does it have functionality that would be useful to somebody?
Yes, I mean, if you
Then
could
I
find a
think it's-
department that's willing to spend, any department that's willing to spend $1,000 to fix it. There's departments in the country that are hurting for equipment, so if
But I mean,
$1,000
would it make sense for us to fix it and then offer it?
That's
or-
the thing, I don't think you're gonna get a lot of money if you try to sell it or auction it. I think it's gonna be in the low dollar value because of the age of it.
Okay,
So that's where that's really up to the town to decide what they wanna do with it. We've been talking around the firehouses, donate it to somebody who needs it. Here, it needs $1,000 repair. So some of us hate to see it go because it's purely mechanical, not a computer in it, and we're having a lot of computers
The good
problems
old
with our fire trucks. But it's time for get rid of
They
something.
need to make room.
And again, we have the truck 7.4, which we're using in place of 7.5 until the new truck shows up. What you guys want to do with that is totally up to you as well. But we are going to have fire trucks sitting outside within a week or two. There's no place to go. We have found fire trucks sitting outside. We might like to get into
Yep.
and chew wires and everything else. So the longer they sit around, the more damage is going to be done to the truck.
They degrade faster not being used than being used.
Yeah.
So,
Simple rule.
a potential decision of tonight could be an authorization to auction 7.5 or prepare for the auction of 7.5 on, pending arrival of the next truck. If it sounds like we're not gonna get much back for, or return on the repair, we can certainly sell it as is and go from there. I just did all the accounting on this, it really is that old, so.
1989.
1989.
Chassis.
So, yes, it's been in this town a lot longer than or slightly longer than I've been on this earth. And so yeah, we're not gonna get anything with it. It has a scrap value of, it might be worth more scrap than anything else, but realistically, disposal by auction is,
but would we auction it,
I would say.
take it off our hands? I mean, that's not an auction if you're just saying, hey, you want
I mean, we
that?
can say auction, we can certainly put it up on an auction website like we
Auction
do up.
national and see what you get
We-
for it.
Yeah.
Put a minimum on it.
You might be surprised.
Some people might just take it from the chassis.
Yeah.
It also has an antifreeze leak. We thought we had it fixed, but it's still leaking antifreeze from the heater inside the cab. But we've already had that fixed once and it's doing it again.
So we'll sell it as is and go from there.
We've taken a lot of the.
And we can
off.
give the briefing to whoever is the winning bidder, but it's an as is the situation, it sounds like. But yeah, we want to take action on this ASAP.
Yeah. Theoretically, the auction is gonna give you the value that it's actually worth, somebody's willing to pay for it, so. I would say go that route, put a small minimum on it or something.
I listed
See
it.
who bites.
I listed it on the audit forms with a scrap value of like $300 or something like that. So
I'll give you 300 for it.
there you go.
I offered you 5 already.
I'll go 6.
Here we go, it's the auction.
I would make a motion to put truck 75 on Auctions International with a minimum bid of $1,500
Now,
and see if you get it. If you don't get it, you always drop
Is there a
it.
second?
Second.
Shit.
Motion made by Jamie and seconded by.
You'll have it right over across my house.
It'll be parked in your driveway. Put it
Perfect.
on,
Got it.
put 75 on the auction block for 1,500 minimum and see what we get. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Alright.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Now, in the year 2021, when we were working with E1, they appraised, not in writing, but they gave an appraisal of $50,000 for the 7.4 truck that we will no longer need. I've been all over the internet looking around. I think you'll have a hard time getting 50, but what you guys want to do with that one is up to you as well.
I would say let's give us a slight 2 weeks to think on that one at least, because that one's still the working fire truck where the case is a lot less, and I want to confirm with where we are on ISO and everything like that after this, just so we have it before we make a firm decision.
Do we have space for that if we go to some type? Yeah.
Yeah, I can sit down west, but it needs a wheel bearing on the passenger side, and it's leaking oil, so that's gonna need repairs.
Okay. So
Is it worth keeping if we repair it?
For the time being, yes.
yeah, we certainly.
I mean, when that truck was built, it was designed for a rescue and water source truck. That would go to draft. It does pump well.
So I'm generally game of hold on to that one, just at minimum in case of other breakdowns, which will inevitably happen, knowing we have the interior space to store it.
Because you said you've got something going on with 772
7.7 is hydraulic ladder rack.
and corrosion of the aluminum body.
The aluminum body, the rocker panel, when you open the driver's door, that's starting to corrode along the bottom and on the top of the doors. That's aluminum body. The aluminum body is starting to corrode. It needs a pump for the hydraulic ladder rack right now. So there's no ladder on it. We can't utilize that truck except in town. We can't run much labor with it at all. I'm trying to, right now I'm dealing with E1. They're trying to find me a pump because they're trying to find the one that went on it. It was made by Smeal back in 1999, so it's an older pump.
Did you try them down in Connecticut? Smeal?
No, I'm leaving it to Garth to try to, making him earn his money.
I'm happy to make any calls as relevant in this space. But yeah, so
And they built it, they may be able to track it down quicker.
What is the aluminum body? Does it need repairs to it, just to prevent that? any-
No, it's just gonna continue to get worse. That truck, identical trucks to that online for sale are selling around $25,000 the same year. So it's one of them things where the truck will last us a few more years, but the truck's only gonna last us a few more years. Do you wanna spend thousands of dollars on body work and take away from moving forward at some point, you know? That's one of them we do.
yeah.
But it's still, the truck pumps, it functions, it fights fire, it still does its job, so mechanically, there's no issues with it right now. We have had some, but we've had them all
That is
fixed.
the one that we did have the complete new wiring harness put in 4 years ago,
So
front to back.
I think hearing this, it sounds like we're gonna be reevaluating our truck sinking fund numbers going into next year. So we'll look at this, and I'll look at where we are in capital planning to see what the timelines are for these things, because certainly we're not in a timeline to replace everything right all at once right here. But we'll make we are currently on a reasonably sustainable path, but I feel like the deterioration may be worse than we expected, so we'll up things a little bit earlier than expected. But
We have had it undercoated, hoping to get some more life out of it. I think,
We had the trailers being pulled with personal vehicles.
yeah, we're pulling the trailer with personal vehicles now, it's the 710. It's got some issues, it's old. We know we paid $3,500 for it.
Got $3,000 to see if it was
Right.
gonna be what we wanted to move toward.
Now, it was
Definitely
towed.
fulfilled its, what we thought it would do.
Yeah, it was towed, the trailer was towed last weekend, and the guy that hooked it up let the plug for the trailer drag on the ground, so we gotta replace or fix that now.
Second time.
Yeah. We think we can just shorten it this time.
You can.
Mike, on the undercoating, while you're on that subject, are all of the vehicles in the schedule for undercoating, or?
The only one we didn't do, and we didn't do it because it needed a gas tank at that time, was 7.4,
Right.
but everything else has been done. Even the trailer was undercoated.
It isn't something you have to do every year? I mean,
The
I know
trailer,
we used
no.
to do them, take them up to Rutland and have them do the oil undercoating.
Yeah, we're doing Woolwax right up on South, or North Road.
Oh.
Ian Harthorn,
Yeah.
he's doing the Woolwax. He said you probably do every 2 years with the fire trucks, because they're not run
Okay.
every day.
They don't run a lot, yeah.
But the trailer should be fine. We hardly use that during the winter, except for going to Kelly's stand.
Mhm.
I mean, we had the brush truck done, we had everything done.
Okay. I'm just curious. All right, anything else you guys got?
I think that's it for trucks. What else I got, Glenn?
You had
Old
7-Eleven.
oh, I'll take care of you.
7-Eleven.
7-Eleven's fixed.
Transmission.
Josh and I serviced the transmission, replaced the plugs. We did filters and everything Sunday morning. The transmission is not leaking, the truck is fixed. I finally got in contact with the Cascade guy this afternoon. He promised me he's gonna be here Wednesday, but I've heard that before. I do need to look at that invoice because.
Yeah, I'll grab it for you.
So the Cascade system should be done Wednesday if he shows up. So we're now back to putting that back to our utility truck. I think that's it for
So
that one.
foam, I can just speak to, I'm gonna wait, so we just have to sit for 2 months until the hazardous waste facility is open. We'll use the hazardous waste facility, once it's open, as our test run as a government with that new entity. So but yeah, they can sit until summer and I'll take care of that in the summer and run down to
The
Bennington.
old
and all that.
PFOA phone was gotten rid of before. This is just outdated.
Yeah.
Just that.
Yeah.
This, it is.
And the stuff we use now, the stuff we have on hand now, that we don't want to throw away, has no shelf life. So we're gonna put that in the new truck. We're not gonna mess.
It doesn't expire, in other words?
No, and it doesn't gel up like the old phones do.
That's good.
I
What
got
else is it forgetting?
4 policies right here.
Dispatching.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, it's dispatching. I sent Nick the
Yeah.
invoice, or the quote.
$2,000 and change.
Yeah,
something like that.
2,300. They will, Manchester can install a directional antenna on their antenna and do some programming, and that'll put them at fully functional, be able to dispatch us. Right now, we're having an issue with state dispatch again. We can hardly understand them. One of the technicians' reasons for was when it rains, the cables at Shasbury get wet, but even on beautiful sunny days, we can't understand what she's saying. So last time we had troubles with state dispatch, their technicians, they're working, our technician had not gone to Shasbury yet, and all of a sudden the system was perfectly fine. So it was something on their end, and they just didn't want to.
Yeah, we've talked about going to Manchester for dispatch. We know that this is a long-term part of our plan to move away from state dispatching. So it's honestly super reassuring to me that it's only $2,300 to get the infrastructure in place for them to be able to start the contract that we still have yet to negotiate with them. So one of the next steps is for me to get a meeting with their new town manager to work on getting toward that contract, and then we can commit to the equipment.
Okay, yes.
Does this need to be tested?
They've already done testing.
So they've already added the antenna? to
No,
the
they
test?
tested us as is, and it worked perfectly fine.
And so if they add more
So if they add
capacity,
a
it'll be even
directional
better?
antenna, it'll be even better.
Okay, all right, I just,
They came in, the day they were doing their testing, they came in better than state dispatch ever
okay,
has.
okay, that's fine, I just didn't wanna be assuming something would work, but you're too good for that, we're not doing that, thank you.
Okay. So you had something else you started to?
Yeah, these are SOGs, I guess they say, not necessarily policies that I want to add to the SOGs that the select board approved however many years ago. When
A
was
long
it?
time ago.
Yep. I got one here, if you guys want to take time to look at these.
Yeah, let's just, you wanna leave them for us to
Yeah.
circulate?
Leave
and then we'll look
those
at-
and we'll look at them, and act
I'll
on
take
them
them at
next
a
meeting.
future meeting.
That's fine.
Should be warned
Yep,
and adopted or something.
yeah.
We can warn them for review next meeting and then adopt
Absolutely.
them the following one.
Physicals are tomorrow night. And do whatever else I wrote down.
That's about it, you got it pretty well covered there.
Excellent.
All right, any questions for
You're
us?
doing all of the physicals over at the
Yep,
building?
yep.
At the same
Their
time
hunter
you're doing
safety
those-
course there?
Yeah, they're gonna do it in 7/8 day, because it's a small group.
They were there tonight.
Yes,
I think they did tonight.
yes, it started tonight, it's all week.
Because the physicals will be upstairs, just guys go up, get their physical, come back down. So I told John that he could do hunter safety in 7/8 day, because there's only 8 kids. But if he did it tonight, it's fine.
They're there all week, and then they test on Saturday.
I know when Todd and I were over at either the last meeting or the one before that where we met with you guys, we talked about updating the forms that the guys sign, to acknowledging they understand what the benefits are and all of that. Do you do that at the same time you do the physicals, or is that something different done?
We've normally, Dan Zimmer's normally just randomly come to a meeting,
Okay.
have them in his possession.
I was just thinking while they were there, if you could, you might as well do as many of those things as you could.
Yeah, but I don't have those forms. They'd have to come from the insurance,
Gotcha.
like the BFIS forms.
Mostly the beneficiaries is what I was
Yeah,
thinking.
the beneficiary forms, emergency contact forms, we could do those,
Yep.
which everyone's done those.
Okay. But you should probably review those at least annually, because personnel
Dan used to do
changes
it yearly.
over and, it's an easy thing to get lost in the shuffle.
Yeah.
But like right now, we just don't have anyone that deals with Vermont State Fire Service on a regular basis anyway.
We can work on doing that. If that's something that needs to move in my office, then that's totally fine. It's something that easy to move to the select board. And I can show up to a meeting annually or something like that, go over this and ask questions, etc. So, excellent.
Firehouse committee.
Oh yeah, so committees, what's on the agenda is to set the structure, because we'll then want to put out calls for public people. As proposed, I think we've discussed it kind of arm's length a couple of times.
Yeah.
The idea of the chief committee being a smaller committee with 2 members of the select board, potentially 2 members of the fire department, and then 1 member of the general public. And then the other committee, the building committee, being 2 members of the select board, 2 members of the fire department, and then 3 members of the general public, with more opportunity to bring some of those people that have some valuable and novel insights from the community who have built things to be on that committee. That's what I'm envisioning for these, but feel free to live edit that as you see fit. But
I
if
think
that's-
that sounds basically good numbers. The 5-member for the chiefs is, equal representation between the board and the fire department, and then the at-large member. There are obviously, both of them, you want odd numbers, because you don't want an even number and have a split down the middle and no decision. You want to have a decision one way or the other, so. 5 and 7 members, I think is a pretty good, 7 isn't so much that you can't get something done. We've had committees like that before, and they worked pretty well when it came to purchase of the water company, various other things. We had 6 or 7 members. And, a lot of times you get 1 or 2 that aren't available on any given night, and you still have your 5, so still can get a quorum fairly easily with those quorums.
Yay or nay on that grant?
On the bill grant, the state has gotten back to us and said that we did not move forward on that in their process, and that as a general matter, they don't fund these kind of projects that don't have like they want to fund projects later, or what they could do is fund floodproofing at the existing East Arlington station. That is what one of those grants could be used for. So in the event that this building committee settles on a no build solution and says we should just harden that existing building and make it completely 100% floodproof or something like that, or maybe even, dare I say, raise it or something crazy. But that's the kind of thing that grant could be used for, but they are a lot less keen on spending money on architecture and engineering for buildings that may never exist.
Anything else, guys?
I'm good. I think we're good. For now.
You'll think of it by the time you get to the
I
bottom.
got a whole nother list, but they told me to keep.
We got plenty of future meetings this year.
Yeah, well, come in anytime.
Yeah.
We've settled on 5 and 7 for the 2.
5 and 7, I think, is the sense.
Just wanted to make sure. I know it was getting
Yep.
piled around.
So,
I do want to do something on, I can't do recruitment right now because we don't have enough turnout here to recruit more people, you know. But I do want to work on retention. I've been talking with other towns, what they're doing to keep their firemen happy and here and whatnot. But I really would like to sit down and have a serious conversation about that at some point.
okay.
I think that would be really valuable. It would also help us in the event that this board wants to have legislative priorities. This is certainly something that the state has been thinking a lot about in recent years, and it's something that if we need to express things as a board to support our firefighters and on certain state benefits for firefighters and things like that, something that it would be entirely within the realm of this board to speak on, as beyond the kind of more nuts and bolts everyday stuff that we can do for our firefighters.
Okay, well, thank you for coming.
So Mike, I know May 13th, I think, is the day that the state is putting out their recruitment and retention statewide. That day, or
So I can at minimum do, we can do.
I didn't know that they were doing that then. Like again, on retention, yes, recruitment, we can't recruit right now because we can't outfit the numbers. And even if we were to somehow be able to order a group turnout gear, we're gonna wait over 6 months for it, so we're in a real pickle with that.
Unless we can do some of that off-the-shelf stuff that Bergeron just advertised.
Yeah, but their size, if they're off the shelf,
That's
it's
what I
really
know.
good for the right
That's what
size
I know.
people.
But maybe we have the right size people and we can see.
That's why you need to recruit. You can only be this size.
Try this first.
All right, so
Ready?
I'm good.
for now, we're good.
Cool, thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
So let's jump into executive session number 1.
Okay. Just before we do that, do you want to do the
Oh, yeah.
ZBA appointment?
Let's hold off until after that. It's probably better.
All right, so we need to have a motion to go into executive session to determine a personnel matter for the first segment of executive session.
Okay, so I make a motion that premature discussion of a personnel issue would cause the municipality to suffer substantial disadvantage.
Second.
Motion made by Cynthia and seconded by Glenn to establish the reason for the executive session as a personnel matter. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
I make a motion to enter into executive session for discussion of a personnel issue and to allow an excited.
Nope.
And
To allow Jane Jenkins to remain in the room.
and to allow Jane Jenkins to remain in the room.
Is there a second? Motion made by Cynthia to enter into executive session and allow Jane Jenkins to remain in the room, second by Todd. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. We will be back. We're actually going to go downstairs, so
What are we doing?
we're going to go downstairs to the kitchen area there, down there.
Lost the receipt on Kate. Well, in any case, nice to put a face to the name.
I'm Dan, the chair. Glenn Sherman, Todd Wilkins.
He knows me.
And Cynthia Browning, and Jamie sits over there, but he went outside for something, maybe to make a phone call or something, who knows. Anyway, you're interested in the ZBA, just if you want to give us a brief history of your experience, what your interests are in the ZBA. And so.
Sure. Grew up in northern Vermont in Underhill, Chittenden County. Went away to college and law school, came back to southern Vermont, started at the Bennington County State's Attorney's Office back in 2010, and been there ever since. Started off in Bennington, then moved up a little bit farther north to Arlington, and I've been wanting to get more engaged in the community as a whole. I helped out when Jim Baker was doing the Arlington Area Renewal Project, and then saw the sign out front regarding ZBA, and thought that would be a good way to get back involved as well. I have my wife and I have a daughter at Fisher who's moving up to middle school next year, and I'm happy to help out and happy to answer any questions as well.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Parker? Yes.
I didn't quite get what your background is or what your job is.
I'm a prosecutor
Okay.
at the State's Attorney's Office.
Okay. And do you have any particular experience about planning or zoning issues? I mean, I know you're a prosecutor, but that doesn't include some other kind of
Nope.
coursework or whatever.
No, not specifically. I'm fairly familiar with Vermont laws, not specifically zoning, although it comes up more than you would think because we have a lot of landlord-tenant issues that come across my desk.
Property line dispute.
Property disputes.
For the
a lot
state's
of-
attorney, really?
Yep, because when people can't resolve their property disputes civilly, it tends to get escalate into my area. Also, kind of related into the zoning, but a lot of home improvement fraud cases come across my desk, so I get involved on that side of things. So I've worked around the specifics of zoning laws, but not directly involved.
The other thing is, although the state's attorney's office may not prosecute some of these things, they provide the police with legal advice, for lack of a better word. You know, when we're
Like
dealing,
trespassing
yeah,
or
when we're dealing
certain
with a
things or
property
whatever, yeah.
dispute, or
Yeah.
a property line dispute, or anything like that, Alex is the person we call for those legal rulings and things like that. So he has to look them up, research them.
Good. Unfortunately, we get a fair number of
Yeah.
calls because, well, a lot of property disputes can be resolved amicably. Sometimes they don't, and sometimes it's just people get butt heads a little bit too much, and then most of the time it's a call to me about, hey, we have this situation, what do we want to do with it? Or it's actually a crime and we need to bring formal charges, which is what we try to avoid, especially in property disputes or neighbor disputes, because
Mm.
no matter what resolves with a criminal case, if a crime is charged, still neighbors and you still have to live with each other. So if we can resolve things amicably, that is preferred.
Well, I'm all in favor of people with legal skills being on these bodies, because one of the challenges when you have all volunteer citizen decision bodies is sometimes people are not as careful as they might be about the rules. So it's useful to have someone with that training. I do want to say that we're going to be trying to have better orientation for new members on these bodies, but I just want to get this out there right now in case we do appoint you, that there are rules about what you can do as a member of those bodies and who you can talk to, as in you can't talk to an applicant ever outside of, the meeting. You can't talk to other members of the body because, outside of the meeting, that's like, you can't do that. So there's like rules, and we want to try to make them clear to people, and that's for the future. But I just want to say them now to you, just so that's in your head, if you do get appointed, that you want to make sure you understand the rules of this body, even though in many ways it's pretty informal, and people are just chatting about things in a lot of ways. But we need to understand that you can't just be neighbors and friends. If you're that close to someone, you have to recuse yourself.
I have similar obligations on as part of my job, a whole
Of course.
rule of ethics, professional rules of
Good.
professional conduct I
Good.
provide by, so I understand.
Good.
Also note, while I can bring a legal mindset, I cannot give legal advice.
Right.
Right.
And you'll have to make that clear to everybody there, because they're going to be asking
In
you for
the
advice.
same way that the engineer who's on there is not giving engineering advice.
That's right. That's right. You can
so-
point people in directions. You can
I
say.
can do that.
But that's all.
And I
Okay.
can always
Good point.
recommend that if we reach a point,
Yeah.
this is a point where we need an attorney to take a look at. I don't know if we would ever get to that, but I can say, I can bring that mindset, but I cannot give legal advice.
Right, right.
That's a good way to say it.
We have a town attorney.
And there's distinct roles between the ZBA and Planning Commission, even though they're working with the same laws.
Right.
There's two different complete and distinct roles, and
I really like to liken the ZBA to a jury more
very
than
much
anything
so,
else.
very much
Um,
so. Planning Commission sets the rules, and the ZBA adjudicates deviations that the rules don't cover, or that there's no way to follow within the lines of the intent of the Planning Commission rules.
As well as appeals, which are
Yeah.
becoming a more and
Yeah,
more
appeals and-
prominent thing.
Yeah.
Um,
So, at any rate, does someone care to make a motion to approve Mr. Burke's
For a
appointment
2-year
to
term.
the two-year term of the ZBA?
I will make a motion to appoint Alex Burke to 2-year term to the ZBA.
Is there a second? Motion's made by Todd and seconded by Glenn to appoint Alexander Burke to the ZBA for a 2-year term. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Welcome aboard.
Thank you very much.
We will
Thanks, Alex.
give you a letter in writing about the appointment.
Yeah, you'll get something.
Follow
in
it
the
up with some guidelines that are available.
Yeah, I'll send the relevant links to the training.
And I would recommend if you can, even if it's online training, if you just go through the.
Oh, and I can also,
Very good.
one of the easiest ways is I can arrange a meeting with the BCRC's planner who does all this, and she's really good at this. So I can certainly make sure that happens.
Excellent.
Okay.
Welcome to town government.
We can either do the exec session number 2 now, or we can wait until after we've addressed all the other things. And maybe
I
good
was
to wait.
gonna say, let's do-
let's plow through the
Is
rest
there
of it.
somebody who's coming to it?
No, no.
Mark's on
Mark's
here.
Or Mark's on, yeah.
Well, then
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Then he
Okay.
can,
I mean, do we have any other hot topics that?
No,
people
nothing else
want
needs to-
they're all little quick things.
Okay, then I think let's
Wait,
We
have.
can do that afterwards, so the reason for that executive session is a personnel matter.
I make a motion that premature discussion of a personnel issue would cause the municipality to suffer substantial disadvantage.
Second.
Motion made by Cynthia and seconded by Todd to establish the reason for the executive session as a personnel matter. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
I make a motion to enter into executive session for discussion of a personnel issue and to allow Mark Robinson and Nick Zayas to remain in the room for the executive session.
Second. Motion made by Cynthia and seconded by Jamie to enter into executive session to discuss said personnel matter and allow Jamie and Mark Robinson.
No,
or, I'm sorry,
Nick.
Nick
Nick Robinson and Mark Zayas.
Nick Sayers and Mark Robinson to join the meeting
Thank you.
in executive session. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Recording stopped.
Okay, so we're gonna be in this room, so I'll have you just step in.
We reauthorize the program, and I think you just have to authorize me to sign.
No, it's just authorize myself to submit a letter of intent to participate in the grants and aid program.
All
So,
right, there's a spot here for you to sign.
yeah, I will
spot for me
sign,
to Which
and
I
then,
did.
oh, perfect. So, yeah, it's a letter of intent to
But
participate
this
in
is
the grants and
local
aid program.
emergency plan.
That's a different one.
Okay.
That's that.
The grant,
I'm sorry.
the
I thought
GIA
we
one
were-
shouldn't have a place to sign.
Okay, I make a motion to authorize submission of a letter of intent to participate in the state fiscal year 24 municipal road grants and aid program.
Second.
Motion made by Cynthia and seconded by Todd to participate in the municipal grants and aids program for the fiscal year of 24. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, local emergency plan. Local emergency management plan,
This is an updated.
updated
list of-
local emergency management plan. There's just a sign-off sheet there, but I did fully update with all of our current contact information, the plan. I want to make some later edits to the plan to incorporate some more specifics, including some appendices, but this'll do for now and get us compliant and get everything up to date, so.
Okay.
I make a motion to adopt the updated local emergency management plan for the town of Arlington as presented at this meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's made and by Cynthia, seconded by Todd to update the LAPC plan. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Hey, Nick,
Yes,
you know, if you look at alternative phone number under you,
yep,
is that correct?
maybe, that's fine, I'll check it. I'll check that form before I get it submitted, make sure that there's nothing.
I think it's just a typo. I think you have a 2 instead of an 8.
Okay, awesome.
All right. Next on the agenda is 5.6 Culvert Award.
Okay, we got 2 prices on culvert this year. It covers both black and gray culvert, the light duty and the heavy duty. One is Ferguson, one is Lane. Lane was the supplier for last year. And
Okay. So the Ferguson price is $26.94 for that's the black?
yeah, that should, the lower price should be black.
Okay, so the other one is not, the top one is $26.94
That'd be
per
gray.
foot, and that's the gray. The black is $19.49 a foot.
Yep.
For a total is two different 20-foot culverts.
Yes, they're in 20-foot segments, but it's the price per foot.
Price per foot, okay. So the gray one would be a total price of $538.80, and the black one would be $389.80. for a total of $928.60. That's for both culverts. But we're only picking one,
Yeah,
correct?
oh, no, we're awarding the price for, like, either one supplier for black and gray, or,
Okay.
or,
We're gonna buy multiple culverts, that's a price per culvert.
Right.
that's a price per culvert.
So the lane culvert is $11.82 per foot for the black and $15,828 for the gray. And that's the entire estimate per lane.
Yes,
They supplied us last year.
yes.
And was, to the extent that we understand, was their
Product is the
culverts
same.
and their supply and servicing acceptable?
Yeah, their servicing was acceptable, their prices were frankly great, and they managed to get us a supply of gray at a time when we didn't have a good supply of gray.
Why do we need gray?
Gray are the heavier duty ones.
Oh.
So gray, you want to put gray underneath paved roads, and you want to do black underneath the gravel roads typically.
And
So
they're
when we go to,
significantly less.
importantly, when we go to do the culverts under Warnbrook Road before paving, we want those to be gray. So because of how much of a beating that road takes.
Mhm.
So do you have any problem with us going
Now,
with
Lane is the preferred vendor here.
In this
They're
case-
the low price. They gave us
Both-
great service last
Both
year.
products are basically identical.
Right.
It's all
Right.
about price here.
And where's Lane located?
I frankly can't remember off the top of my head.
Okay, so we're basically committing to buy some amount of culverts from them
Yeah.
at this price.
Yeah, Lane at a price of X per foot.
I make a motion to approve, to contract with Lane Culvert to purchase culverts at a price of $11.82 for the 18 by 20 foot black and $15.28 per foot for the 18-inch by 20 foot gray.
Second.
Motion made by Cynthia and seconded by Todd to approve the contract to Lane for the stated price of $11.82 per foot for the black culvert and $15.28 per foot for the gray culvert. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay. Next, delinquent tax collector letters. So the DTC has contacted us asking, as they always do, for permission to spend taxpayer funds to send letters informing people of pending tax sale. There are 14 letters that would go out at a price of $30 per letter. So the or
Certified, I'm assuming.
So yes, these are all working with Mr. O'Toole
Yep.
to do these the appropriate way to do this that has the extra scrutiny and all that.
Yep.
And this number has come well down from when we started the process. But yeah, it's a not to exceed, and she just gave me this number right now. So, but it'll be a not to exceed.
You got 14 letters at $30.
$30. Nope, not to exceed $420 in mailing costs.
$420?
Yep, not to exceed.
I'll make a motion to approve the delinquent tax collection letter not to exceed $420.
Second.
Motion made by Todd, seconded by Cynthia to approve a not to exceed number for the delinquent tax collector letter to go out. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, we have 3 liquor licenses.
Liquor licenses. There's the to first class, third class, and outside consumption.
All for the same,
Yes, those
All
are
for
all
the
for the
American
same
Legion.
entity.
and do we need to sign, or is this verbal approval only?
Verbal only,
Okay.
I believe.
Yeah, it should say.
I don't see it.
These are all verbal approval.
These are all-
These are all done to report.
I make a motion to approve of a first-class club license, a third-class club license, and an outside, no, this is for different, oh no it is. And an outside consumption permit for the American Legion Post 69 Incorporated.
Second.
Motion made by Cynthia and seconded by Todd to approve a first class, a third class, and an outside consumption permit for the American Legion Post 69 Incorporated. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. This is just a one-off. Catering permit for times table
What,
catering.
they're located in Shasberry.
But they're catering an event.
Catering an event at Arlington
Yeah, okay.
Commons.
I make a motion to approve a request for a catering permit to Timetables Catering Incorporated.
Is there a second? Motion made by Cynthia and seconded by Jamie to approve a request for a caterer's permit for Time Tables Catering Incorporated. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 I think the date's on the back.
Yeah, it's the date of the.
Oh, yeah, there it
May
is.
27th,
Yeah.
at the Arlington Commons, they're catering that event. So this one is also a request for a catering permit for Couch and Cork, and the date. Not on that, it's that date. Yeah, it's right there, it's just not highlighted.
I make a motion to approve of a catering permit for Couch and Cork LLC for an event on April 27th at the Arlington Common.
Second.
Motion made by Cynthia and seconded by Todd to approve a request for catering permit to Couch plus Cork LLC for an event on April 27th at the Arlington Commons. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, the next item, wastewater project
Okay, so in the waste
budget adjustment.
in the water meeting, we created the lines for that magical number of $103,465. That is coming from the engineering services agreement from the wastewater project. This is the loan adjustment application to go along with all of that. So we've already done this at a lower number. We had some change orders or some changes to the project. So this is the reapproval at the higher number so we can get the full loan forgiveness.
So this is the wastewater.
So this is the wastewater project.
Wastewater.
This is the wastewater, and it's 103.
465.
465. It's on the third page.
So what are we,
So we just need to make a motion to authorize the
approve
submission
that
of the
application.
loan application for the wastewater project.
Okay, I make a motion to approve of the application for the wastewater project to the state revolving loan programs.
In an amount of $103,465.
About midway down, see it?
It's on the second
In the
page.
amount of $103,465.
Second.
Motion made by Cynthia and seconded by Todd to approve the adjustment in the wastewater project budget and sign the application for total amount of $103,465. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right.
Capitalization policy. The one that you called them
This is the
for.
one, everybody gonna sign this one, but it's town policy on capitalization, recording, and inventory of capital assets. This is the, I think we discussed this briefly at last meeting.
I don't think we discussed it briefly last meeting, but this came on the advice of our auditors that we had a capital asset planning policy. We never had a capitalization policy that dictates how Jenna and I do the accounting for our capital assets, what we track, what we don't track.
And what's considered a
What is
capital
considered a
asset?
capital asset? This was
You and I
built,
discussed it.
yeah, this was based on a model from the town of Milton, which is a bigger town than us, so typically has some useful structures. We adjusted the thresholds for our needs, ran those thresholds by the external contract auditor to confirm that they're GASB compliant. They are, so that this will set it up so we're tracking the right assets for our balance sheet. And will get us to a point where we can actually have that mythical balance sheet that we've been trying to get to for many years. We'll have one. And we'll have one that's grounded in a policy that is unified and is not me pulling things out of the air based on what we think should be correct. Specifically that $25,000 threshold for infrastructure and $10,000 for everything else. And all buildings and land get recorded no matter what. That is pretty close to standard policy, although our thresholds are a little bit higher than most towns, which allow us to knock out certain things that don't necessarily need to be capital goods. One of the things that sits below that $10,000 threshold, but we have a lot of, is like fire department turnout gear, would be something that we'd have to track as a capital asset if we had a lower threshold. But
There's a little spelling issue in the last paragraph. In addition to the fixed asset date sheet, physical inventory will be taken annually and completed after October 1st.
there we go. Okay, I'll clean that up.
I don't understand a capital asset having a 2-year life.
That's for instance, so we don't have to record like the sand pile. That gets recorded as inventory based on an approximation of what's left in the sand pile.
No, I think it's too short. How can a